This is a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. The opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of CKNW.
Well, hello again, everybody, and welcome to the Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional and best-selling author of The Mortgage Code, Calla. Calla, CALLA.ca. So pleased you could be with us. We are heard at this hour every weekend on CKNW. Just a little refresher from last week, Angela, when you mentioned that smart people are purchasing.
Manny, now is the time. There are thousands and thousands of listings available, and now is your time. If you want to have the opportunity to make sure you get a thorough look, have the opportunity to negotiate, there are several mortgage programs where you can compile that savings and compound it to your benefit. And so if you want to buy, if you're in a position to buy, if you want to make a plan to buy, now is your time. If you've been waiting for that sign, you've been waiting for the numbers to work in your favor, it's right now.
With sales slow, Angela, does it change the attitude or the methodologies that lenders are using? Are they making it easier to get money so they can get some money flowing in the mortgage market?
Absolutely not. They're consistent with their qualifying policies. However, in my 21 now years of experience, I certainly believe that we're going to revert to some previous policies in order to help Canadians get into the market in the next few months, if not years.
So among the 10 questions to ask your mortgage broker, we covered a couple last week, Angela. We didn't get to cover all 10, but what is the biggest question if I come to a mortgage broker like yourself? What's the biggest question other than, can you get me the best rate?
Yes. Well, how are you going to personally manage my mortgage to help me take advantage of changes in the marketplace and my lifestyle?
Yeah, you want your mortgage managed, just like you want your healthcare managed, your dental healthcare managed, your financial portfolio managed. But first-time buyers, man, they are looking at some great deals now if they can get in. That's what we were talking about, first-time buyers really in terms of purchasing, Angela. And we got a really nice letter from a first-time buyer. Her name is Erin, and she wrote to the radio program, "I want to thank you and John for all your help, Angela. I appreciated how quick John was to answer any questions I had and how transparent he was through the entire mortgage process. As a first-time home buyer, I also appreciated the extra information you provided me so I would have further understanding about credit scores, rates, and mortgages. Thanks again, and I look forward to working with your team in the future." Aaron from Surrey.
Oh, Erin was amazing. And, it was so exciting because when you're a first-time home buyer, getting started on the right path financially really helps you build and protect your wealth. And there's a saying that I say when I teach for the real estate board, and it says, date the rate, marry the house. And what consumers are generally unaware of in the whole banking and financial world is how lenders use their posted rate against you when it is time for you to make a change. So many home buyers and homeowners are being held back from making the best financial smart money moves for themselves because their penalty is too large with their existing lender. So right now, Manny, the banks are giving about a 2 to a 2.5% spread off of their posted rate. And so that spread, if you need to move up the property ladder or access your equity for debt down the road, is going to result in significant penalties. Now, Manny, you and I have been doing this show since 2006, so we certainly remember 2008, 2009, when rates went from 6% to 3%, what felt like overnight, and homeowners were racing to try to redo their mortgages, and what lender they were with really clarified for them if they were going to have the right financial plan or be stuck and handcuffed to their lender. And we go through this example in the real estate board, and we pull up the major banks that have posted rates, and we show the discount. And then we show what we talk about in the mortgage code, which is a monoline lender. Monoline lenders are lenders that only accredited mortgage professionals have access to, and they don't have the posted rates that the banks do. They do have a posted rate, but it is much, much lower compared to what the banks are, and they use that to calculate their IRD. So on a $500,000 mortgage, as an example, you can be looking at either a $30,000 penalty from a major bank who has posted rates and has given you this significant discount that they've sold to you as an emotional selling tool, or you could get a mortgage from a monoline lender, from an independent mortgage broker, and instead of $30,000, we've seen the penalties come in at $6,000. So there's over $19,000 in savings there, but unless you've had the opportunity to sit down with an unbiased professional that can show you the pros and cons of each, it's very easy to make that costly mistake, which is why we certainly take the time to explain everything. We write about it in our book. We share it here on the show. And we share with you also the sales tactics that are being utilized by institutions. Like, oh, go get any rate and we'll match it. But it's what they're not telling you about the penalties in the future that can really harm your financial health and security moving forward.
Yeah, you got to understand that entire mortgage document. You might be offered, a better interest rate, but hidden, not so hidden. I mean, it's there, but the hidden meaning behind some of those clauses in that mortgage document are these penalties and other things that are going to make up for that lower interest rate, and in some cases exceed the amount of money that bank is going to make on that mortgage simply by offering you a lower mortgage rate. It's all in the terms. I talk to friends about that, Angela, and they look at me with a blank face. What do you mean the terms? I said, yeah, the terms. You got to listen to the show. You got to read the mortgage code. You got to listen to Angela. It's about the terms in a mortgage. Among the other questions to ask your mortgage broker, Angela, what are the mortgage penalties to get out of a mortgage because I'm a little strapped, I want to go rent, I want to move, whatever the case might be, but I want to cut this mortgage off. What is the best advice there?
Well, that one is really tricky. And most importantly, with any of these questions, it's important that you don't email it in, because you're going to get some AI answer or some answer that, when you can either get on a Zoom or get on a phone call and ask these questions live, your intuition is going to do its job, Manny. And if you already have a mortgage with this lender that you are consulting with because maybe you're up for renewal, then you're going to know already. Have they contacted me to help me save money or get ahead financially throughout the term of me already having this mortgage? And if your answer to that is no, then your answer right away is no, they don't deserve my business moving forward, because I think we can all agree that our economy is consistently changing, as are our lives, and we need a mortgage that's going to be able to do so and that we can benefit from as well. Now, when you ask a lender how the penalty is calculated, they're all going to say the same thing, because their job is to represent their lender. So they're going to say it's either going to be 3 months interest or the interest rate differential. They're not going to break down for you, and it's not in their employment agreement with their employer to specify how it's going to be different than someone else's. It's going to be in there, but it's up to the consumer to work it out. So when they come to us, we show them. We say, okay, look here online, here's their posted rate. Here's potentially the risk you're putting yourself at if you need to break your mortgage early. And here is, potentially the lender that we have you approved with, and here's the difference based on today. We can't calculate penalties based on the future because the lenders have the ability to change their rates daily, but we can give you a side-by-side comparison based on today. And that's really, really important. And you have to understand that the banks are not bad. This is not banks are bad and brokers are great. It's just that is their policies. That is their tools. And of course, anybody that's employed by them is responsible to sell their products. That's not a bad thing, because, Manny, where do you think all these monoline lenders get their money from to be able to lend mortgages at better terms? Where do you think they get it from? Quick question.
From the brokers.
No, they get it from the banks. So they get their business from brokers, but the money doesn't come off the back of a dump truck. The banks are invested in these other companies to make sure that they get their money one way or the other.
No, gotcha. Okay. Yeah. Well, I mean, these are some of the intricacies that, the layperson like myself probably wouldn't understand. And that's why it's always the best advice we can give you on this show is to seek out a really, really highly awarded accredited mortgage professional like Angela Calla. There is no fee for her service. Angela Calla, CALLA.ca. Coming up, we are going to have one of our favorite guests join us on the show because so many people are seeking out a little equity from their current home to possibly build a laneway home, to build an in-law suite, a mortgage helper. Graham Hugue from My House Design Build is going to join us. You've heard him on the radio station many times, and he is going to talk a little bit about how you fit that in with a mortgage. He and Angela and I are going to have a little chat when we come back to the Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional and best-selling author Angela Calla, back in a moment. Welcome back to the Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional and best-selling author of The Mortgage Code, Angela Calla. No fee for Angela's service. Angela Calla, CALLA.ca. One of our favorite guests on the Mortgage Show, always. Graham Hugue from My House Design Build. Graham, welcome back to the show. I know your company has been seeing a lot of folks asking about, because of the bylaw changes and rule changes in a lot of municipalities, multi-generational renovations. Give us some of the pros and cons that go along with that.
Well, it's a great question and a really important topic. I mean, so many families are obviously, we talk about and hear about the housing crunch and the availability of housing and the affordability of housing. So lots of families, are looking at what can I do where I can involve my kids into my house, or can I bring my parents back to my house, or maybe it's a senior, maybe it's grandpas and grandmas, and we see this multi-generational shift in a lot of different cultures that normally or traditionally don't work that way. And so the number one thing people ask for are secondary suites. So secondary suites could be what we've heard as basement suites, but they also could be a loft suite. It could be side by side. So secondary suites are really important to think about. Whatever you do in terms of construction or renovation, I would make sure that you are dealing with a licensed professional, getting permits, proper permits in place, because it can affect your resale value as well if you don't do things right the first time. And there are basic, simple code issues regarding separating the suites from a fire safety and from a noise abatement perspective. So that's suites. And then you mentioned about, or you'll hear on the news, things like multiplex or duplexing. This isn't new. We've had this in our lower mainland, but it's becoming more and more available where the zoning has changed. And now people are able to look at their property and maybe add things. We've heard in the past adding a laneway, a coach house. Now some municipalities you can add what's called a garden house. And a garden house is simply where there isn't a lane, but you can still put a small house in the back of the property. And we also have the ability to do duplexing, triplexing, quadplexing, up to 6 units on one piece of property, depending on the zoning and the municipality. So the key is having a team, having your designer. So that might be us, My House Design Build. We're an architectural firm as well, so we can design and plan. And then having part of your team, your finances in place. And that's where Angela comes in to help you talk about how do I finance this project? Not just the end financing, but the bridge financing to get from out of the ground to your completed project.
Well, let's talk about that, Angela. How do we finance all this?
Well, Manny, there's more options today than there's ever been. And consulting with Graham and his team, he's also going to ensure that you save the most amount of money because he does bring on an energy consultant. And so if we are doing this from an insured perspective, making a purchase and renovating it accordingly now that the cap has risen for insured mortgages, there potentially could be a 25% rebate on the energy efficiency based on the bills, on the insurance premium that could either be provided in terms of a refund after the fact, or that discount can come right off the top, which reduces the interest that you pay going forward from day one with mortgage payment one. And when we talk about multi-generational planning, we really have to take a look at the overall financial plan, because there also are mortgages that allow us to use the equity without having an interruption to cash flow. So when we get this call into our office, we often have people over 55, maybe in their 70s, and when they're looking at building a laneway house or a garage house or adding a multiplex, they're saying, we're retired, we want to gift our equity while we're still healthy. Our multi-level home no longer works for us. It would be perfect if we could have a smaller home on the property. So they're accessing their tax-free wealth through a reverse mortgage, and so they're not having any interruption to their cash flow. They're not making any monthly payments, but they're right-sizing according to their family and financial plan.
Well, Graham, I want to put this question to you because many of the complaints we hear about the housing market and the development market, the time it takes to get the permits approved, and in that time, costs can rise. What is your best advice to someone who is getting some permits to have any of these jobs done? And it might take, months to maybe years for all I know. And in some cases, those costs are going to rise. How is it guaranteed to the homeowner who wants to make one of these renovations that the cost that you give them is going to be the cost a year down the road?
Yeah, that's really important. First of all, get started right away. That's what I would do. Even if you're thinking of something that might happen next year, engage a professional like ourselves, and we go through a very simple process in the beginning called feasibility, and that's to figure out exactly the answers to these questions. What's feasible? What is the feasible timeline? What are the feasible costs? What permits are involved? How long will they take? And looking at the marketplace in terms of costs of goods. We as a company, we've gone through 9/11. We've gone through the 2008 to 2012 economic crash in the United States, which affected all of the global markets. We've gone through COVID, and now we've gone through this threat of tariffs and so forth. We're going through that. We've got the experience to look at what has happened in the past, where costs typically go up and why. For example, we had lumber rise drastically in 2021 and 22. And that was after COVID. What took place? Well, the pressures in the industry that led to that. So we can see and forecast a lot of those cost increases before they happen, so we can talk through those issues right in the beginning. As far as residential renovations and new construction, the permitting time is a lot faster than when you hear the complaints of developers who are doing larger multiplex type situations. So smaller renovations or smaller house builds, that the permits are happening all around the Lower Mainland a lot faster. And when you're dealing with, for example, an existing aging in place type of situation, as Angela was alluding there, you've got many options. You can build a small home and still have an elevator. You can also renovate your home and put an elevator or a lift. So there's things you can do for aging in place, working with older family members, and there's tax benefits and tax credits available when you do any modifications to your existing home for any family member over the age of 65 or anyone with any disabilities of any age. And that includes improving the air quality in a home. Angela mentioned working with an energy advisor. That's part of our team on every project, whether it's a renovation or new construction. And that's making sure that whatever we're doing is to the best of technology available, energy efficient, and healthy. And in the end, that's what we want to do for all of our clients.
Well, having been through a number of years with an aging parent in senior care at a senior living home, which is very, very expensive, one has to look at the feasibility and say, well, maybe I'm better off to do an in-law suite or a suite for my aging parent. Maybe that's cheaper than paying another facility to house and feed your senior parent. So there are so many things to look at, Graham, and I certainly appreciate your time filling us in on all of this. One quick question. In some cases, people want to stay in their home while renos are done. Can you accommodate that for the most part?
Yeah, 50% of our clients are living in their home while we're renovating. So we set them up. For example, the number one renovation people are doing is things like kitchens and bathrooms. So we set them up with temporary kitchens in another part of the home. We separate off the areas that we are going to be affecting and renovating. And it's a logistics question that we bring up right in the very beginning, including that phase I talked about, feasibility. What's feasible? Is it feasible that I live in my home while we do this type of work?
Info at myhousedesignbuild.com. Info at myhousedesignbuild.com. Graham Hugue, thank you for joining us on The Mortgage Show. We'll be back in a moment. Welcome back to The Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional and best-selling author of The Mortgage Code, available on Amazon. Angela Calla, angelacalla.ca. I want to thank Graham Hugue from myhousedesignbuild.com. Graham is much heard on this radio station because of his expertise. He's won so many awards. These Georgie Awards, they are really like the Academy Awards for house design, house builds, and Graham certainly leads the winner pack on that. I should mention as well, Graham has a series of webinars, and we encourage you to go to his website, All Questions Answered. Info at myhousedesignbuild.com is how you can find out about those webinars. And you have your own webinars. Angela, you cover a vast variety of topics, not the least of which first-time buyers. And we're so pleased to have Rosalia with us on this edition of The Mortgage Show. You helped out Rosalia, and we talked to Rosalia recently about how she was able to save, thanks to the Angela Calla mortgage team, $63,000. Well, first of all, Rosalia, why don't you tell us how you got a hold of the Angela Calla mortgage team?
Actually, it was really easy. I emailed Angela through their website, and I contacted them regarding getting a mortgage. I was curious. I had no idea what I was doing. So I kept on hearing the ads on CKNW, and I thought, okay, I'm going to contact Angela.
And then tell us a little bit about the process moving forward after that initial contact.
It was very easy, actually. It wasn't as scary as I thought it would be. Getting a mortgage to me sounded like a death sentence. And going through the Angela Calla mortgage team, they actually made it very comforting, and they understood all my questions and my concerns that I had getting a mortgage. Especially me being a first-time buyer, I had a lot of questions going in, and you can inundate yourself with a lot of information from other people, but until you actually talk to the experts, that's where you actually get your questions answered, and they did a great job with me with that.
Well, what were some of the questions that you had? What was bothering you going in?
Well, I was torn actually at the beginning between going with my bank, who I've been banking with since I was born, basically, and going with a mortgage broker that I actually didn't know anything about. And when I went to the banks, for example, I said, I'm looking for a new home, and I did, my due diligence with them. And they actually advised me not to go with a mortgage broker, which I thought was a little funny, because when I went to the Angela Calla team, they said, you know what, go ahead, see what your banks will give you, and we will walk you through the process on our end. There's no commitment to us, but we will show you what we can do for you. It ended up being such a comforting process with Angela Calla's team as opposed to the banks. The banks just wanted me in for an hour, sell me a bunch of stuff, and get me out. And they all actually even quoted me 0.24% higher as a rate than Angela Calla's team did.
Well, not a great experience, obviously, dealing directly with the bank. We often talk about that, Rosalia, on the show. And I know Angela wants to step in here and ask you a couple of questions and say hello and the rest of it. So, Angela, with Rosalie on the line talking about her experience at the bank, this is something that you see all too often, isn't it?
It really is. And really, it's helping people break the psychology and the costly mistake of not understanding exactly what a bank's role is. And, Rosalia had seen that firsthand when she had went to the lending institution directly. Their job is to sell you products and to make as much money off of you as possible, not to save you money. And so not only was the rate higher that they quoted you, Rosalia, but my understanding is they didn't talk to you about the punitive penalties that you would have down the road if you needed to make any changes, correct?
Correct. They never explained any of that stuff. It was more of, you need a mortgage? Okay, let's see what we can get for you, and this is what you need to buy on top of what you're getting. And it wasn't like, here are your options. This is what you could do with your money. This is how you could save here. You guys definitely did that for me. You ended up saving me, close to $12,000 in the end for myself personally, which is great. I can use that later on for another purchase or even doing a lump sum later on if I want, which is you guys explained clearly to me.
Yeah, and so from what I understand, it sounds to me like you really recognize the education difference.
Absolutely, big difference.
So, it sounds very black and white to me that there was just sales at the bank, and when you came to us, you understood that the process was totally different. You understood the difference between all the lenders. Not only did you save $12,000, but the strategy, it was very clear to us within the first 2 minutes of our conversation of what you were looking to do. You're a first-time home buyer. You currently have a boyfriend. And from our consultation, we presented you with about two different strategies that we can implement. One would just be, obviously the standard, you and your boyfriend buy a place together, but we kind of opened up your eyes to looking at utilizing your strengths to really be able to build your wealth down the road. So not only are you saving, up to $21,000 in a future penalty, which the bank never told you about in addition to the high interest rate, but we also talked about saving your boyfriend's first time home buyer for a future purchase, which is a savings of a minimum of, probably $5,000, and down the road could be more should that be changed. But then also how you guys could utilize your resources together to save cash on hand while still afford the mortgage payment and build your wealth faster, because it's not often that your first home is going to be where you're going to be forever, right?
Right, exactly. And I do have future goals, and you guys actually took the time to listen to my future goals. It was caring. It was in a genuine way, which is really nice. It's very different when you go to an institution that just wants to sell you a bunch of products and, credit cards on top of that, which is not what I'm looking for.
Yeah, no kidding.
From the sounds of it, Rosalia, what Angela and her team put together for you was just a fabulous mortgage plan moving forward. It's always nice when you can get a blueprint for the future that looks so financially positive.
Exactly. They did that, and the step-by-step process as well. And I had a bunch of questions. I even turned to my sister, who's a financial analyst herself, and she had a bunch of questions. And her team, Angela Calla's team, was so patient with everything I threw at them, and they took the time to not just email me back in within minutes of my emails, but actually call me and encourage me, to, if I had any more questions, to contact them at any time. It doesn't just end with the mortgage. It's an ongoing process with them.
Sounds to me, Rosalia, that all the apprehension you had prior to contacting Angela and her team has totally dissipated, and you feel much more comfortable now moving forward. What advice would you give to people who are listening to the radio program this evening who may be a little apprehensive as you were?
I would say definitely call Angela Calla's team, and it's not going to cost you a thing other than 5 minutes of your time, and they do all the work for you and explain everything for you and basically hold your hand from start to finish. And I'm not even finished yet. I have future goals, and they're going to hold my hand through that process as well.
Really appreciate you joining us this evening, Rosalie, and best of luck to you and your boyfriend. And the future sounds really, really awesome for you both.
Thank you so much.
Yes, thank you so much for joining us. We look forward to helping you for the years to come, Rosalia.
Pretty cool, Angela. You saved her $63,000.
It's always all about the terms, Manny. We are very passionate about helping people gain clarity on what their options are, and this is just one of them when you get started on the right foot.
First-time buyers is one of the topics of many that you cover in your webinars. Angela, what is the number one piece of advice for a first-time buyer who I know, because the statistics tell us that first-time buyers and buyers in general are seeking online information before they make a decision. Pro or con on online information about first-time buying?
I think it depends on at what level you're expecting that to be. It's great for some general research, but it is important that you get personalized advice to make sure that everything that you're looking for and at is aligning with your overall financial goals.
It can be so intimidating as a first-time buyer. You see homes that you might like. Well, that's not in our price range. And then you come down a little bit. Well, I don't quite like the look of that living room. And, you can really get wrapped up in it. First-time buyers, on average, look at more than 100 listings per week before they make a decision to reach out to someone like Angela. But the first thing you should do as a first-time buyer, Angela, is get pre-approved.
Yes, and as you go through the process, Manny, it's not a straight line. As you go through the process, you may change your area, you may change your property type, you may change your down payment, you may change your strategy, you might look at purchase plus improvements, you might look at new construction. And all of those properties have their intricacies that come along with it. You might find a property with a suite. And so aligning yourself with a professional that can help you navigate all of these different options and be consistently looking at the best money saving strategy for you will really help you go ahead with ease and financial confidence.
AngelaCalla.ca, Angela Calla, CALLA.ca, no fee for her service. You are listening to The Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional Angela Calla, back in a moment. Welcome back to The Mortgage Show on CKNW. Manny Bazunas, along with accredited mortgage professional and best-selling author Angela Calla. Always like getting letters. This via Angela Calla on LinkedIn. Ethan and Mia had been wanting to invest for years, but every time they tried, something came up. Between their mortgage, helping their aging parents with medical costs, and rising gas prices, there was never enough money left to save. That's when a neighbor who had refinanced with us, being the Angela Calla team, told them to reach out. After reviewing their mortgage, we helped them free up $1,045 net per month, $12,540 per year, giving them the opportunity to start investing while maintaining their current lifestyle. The question you always ask, Angela, if you had an extra $12,540 per year, how would you use it?
Yeah, Manny, it's so exciting because these families don't have to move, they don't have to work more, they don't have to change their lifestyle. They're just getting their existing mortgage and debts working more intelligently for them in a more cash flow positive way to make them less financially dependent on debt, and now they are financially independent, being able to save that money monthly. So it's so exciting, and I want to tell you right now, if you have debt outside your mortgage, let's see what we can do for you. Don't be shy or embarrassed or think I should be somewhere, I could be somewhere. We have had tough times together as an economy, and the sooner that we can put this behind us, by redoing your mortgage to get that positive cash flow working for you, the more excitement lies ahead.
Yeah, it's really a simple question and answer, and there's nothing to be ashamed of. Everybody's got debt. But if you're drowning in it and you can maybe see a way out of it by refinancing your mortgage, restructuring it, you take that outside debt, whether it's a car loan, a student loan, a credit card loan, and you roll that outside debt for which you're paying usurious interest rates, And Angela rolls all that debt into a new mortgage, and you pay a lesser interest rate. And that's where the savings come in. And in the case we just quoted and talked to you about, and an extra 12,000 plus a year. I mean, that's over $1,000 a month net back in your jeans simply by having Angela restructure. One of the most common complaints we hear from people who are going through the mortgage process at a big financial institution is it's burdensome. You never get quick answers. You can never reach the person that you talked about. That's not the case when you deal with the Angela Calla mortgage team. And Rusty found that out. And you had a chance recently via Zoom to talk to Rusty about the process.
Thank you so much for joining us, Rusty. You know, we all learn best from each other. So you being here today will help people that maybe have tuned into us before or seen me on television. So can you share with our listeners today how you heard of the Angela Calla mortgage team?
You came very highly recommended from a family member who has dealt with you before in other parts of the business as well. And we went with you guys and we're instantly happy right away. We knew we made the right choice.
Excellent. And would you share a little bit about your life stage?
About what was that, sorry?
A little bit about your life stage and what was going on for you and your family at the time?
Oh, wow. We were in a really busy time. We were moving and we probably strategically picked the worst time in our lives to decide to move. But it was the time. It was when sometimes you don't make these choices and things were going to work out on the financial market for us to move at the time. And so it was a little bit of a busy time. Definitely this part of the business when we were working through this was not a stressful part. It was actually pretty easy to get through. And we kept finding surprises within this that definitely made the whole transition easy.
Excellent. And so you moved, you sold a house, you bought another, and we all know these are very different times. How would that compare to the last time that you did it without our assistance, as an example?
There was less back and forth. There was just more very straightforward answers that definitely were in our favor all the time. There was not a lot of research and there was no bad news along the way. It just seemed to be positive and tickety-boo, and we kept getting the answers that we were kind of hoping for. So for that, back to your second question, there definitely made us in a busier time of our lives a lot less stressful.
Right. I think that's the benefit that a lot of people are unaware of is utilizing the services of an independent mortgage professional is no cost to a borrower. They protect your credit, but also they have multiple options. So should things come up, that's the advantage when you're not working with one institution, but you have the advantage of someone who has the insight without bias to look at multiple institutions and see who's going to be the best fit based on all your needs, whether that be timeline, guidelines, property type, all of those aspects are being worked on for you behind the scenes. So that's not a stress that you have to have. It's just, hey, here are the options that are available. This is why we think these are the ones that for you to consider. What do you feel like based on your life stage?
Yeah, and it definitely it opened up some other opportunities. Obviously, when it came to what we were able to afford, the turnaround times and the options that are presented were definitely favorable for us in the end, and it really got us into a place that we didn't really believe that we were going to be able to get into ultimately. So it really worked out really well for us.
Well, your family's got your back. I know it was John's brother, I think, that suggested our house.
That's right.
So that's the thing. Once you're a part of the family, now you're a part of our family, and we'll make sure that you're all taken care of for the years to come. It's been an absolute pleasure. I know that every single person on my team was just so thrilled for you and your move. And I live in the same community as you as well. I think our kids might even go to the same school. So maybe we'll come across each other on the hockey rinks as the season starts up again.
Oh, wonderful. Yes. And all the lacrosse and barbecue season down by the Rocky Points and stuff. I hope you attended down there too. And lots of cool events up here in this area.
Yes, definitely. And for anyone who's tuning in, anyone who maybe hasn't used a mortgage broker, doesn't know what the difference is, what kind of advice would you give to anyone tuning into the show?
Oh, it's very simple. Definitely go ahead with a mortgage broker. It does present and open up all kinds of opportunities you didn't think was possible. And it's kind of like a big red easy button.
Awesome. Well, you're the best. Enjoy your new home. Congratulations to you. And thank you so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me. Talk to you soon.
Take care. Bye now.
Yeah, he was pretty impressed with the whole process, Angela, being really, really easy.
I think it's just a matter of you know what you're dealing with already if you've dealt with any lender. And when you get different service completely and you get taken care of and you get your financial goals considered, you just don't go back when you know what's out there, right, Manny?
Yeah, exactly. Well, every time we ask for folks to send in letters, boy, do they come flying in. Here's one that you posted on LinkedIn, Angela. On Testimonial Tuesday. I like that. Dear Angela, a huge thank you to Vicente and Veronica for their kind words. On behalf of Veronica and myself, they write, I would like to thank you guys very much. You, John, Angela, the whole team have been very professional. I don't have words to describe how much we appreciate the help you guys provided. Vicente and Veronica. Well, that's about it, Angela. All the help you provided. I mean, when was the last time you walked into a big financial institution and, yeah, they gave you a little bit of help, but it came with a cost. Can we sell you this? Can we provide this? It's going to cost you this. There's a fee for that. There's no fee for Angela's service. Angela Calla, CALLA.ca, angelacalla.ca. I want to talk a little bit about the Mortgage Code, Angela. This is your best-selling book available on Amazon. Take us from chapter 1 through to the end of the book. What are some of the big topics that you cover that people should absolutely, positively, 100% read?
Well, I think it gives you the ins and outs of exactly what to expect, and it helps you elevate your thought process when you're getting a mortgage. People don't realize that your mortgage is a direct relation to your financial security and wealth building moving forward. And if you make a mistake by not understanding the system or falling for sales tactics opposed to what's best for you financially with unbiased advice, it could be quite financially devastating. And so we take you through a journey in this book of the why behind the financing, so you understand the lender's perspective. And then we take you through different life stages where people are getting help accordingly based on their life stage. And at the end of the day, Manny, it all comes down to helping you avoid costly mistakes, save money, and build a better life.
We talked about mortgage restructuring, Angela. You recently helped Sylvia and Luke from Coquitlam consolidate outside debt into a restructured mortgage, saving them $2,400 a month and over $10,000 over the term of their mortgage. Sylvia's a nurse. Luke owns a construction company. And yes, thanks to the Angela Calla mortgage team, they are now saving net in their jeans $2,400 a month.
It's a lot of money, Manny. $2,400 each and every month. And it's, again, you're not moving, you're not working more. It's just restructuring your mortgage and existing debts to, consolidate and conquer and, amortize, smart size the amortization of your mortgage. And when you put those things together, you get the opportunity to save that money monthly. And it's significant. I mean, it's nearly $30,000 a year.
You have been listening to The Mortgage Show on CKNW. I'm Manny Bazunas. We'll see you next time.
The proceeding was a paid commercial program. Unless otherwise identified, the guests on the program are employees of the advertiser. The opinions expressed are those of the advertiser and do not necessarily reflect the views and policies of CKNW.